Yo, welcome back, guys, to Final Fantasy Brave Exvius with your host, Venom. Okay, so today we're going to go through team building. Okay, so it might sound basic to everyone, and it's the first thing you should know when you play the game. But you'll be surprised. I have a lot of like level 70 onwards, rank 70 onwards players that I know. Who still can't really build a team properly. If you think like fighting trials and stuff, they have like really OP units, like they have Freevere, Orlando, that kind of stuff, and some trials they still can't beat, and that's just purely basically because that's purely based on using strategy in your battles. Okay, so I'm not saying one team beats all, but let's just go through all the units anyway. Like let's have a look through the units. Right, so you can see like I do have a lot of 5-star bases and some 4-star bases which are really powerful. For instance, like Riku and Ling, Noctis, that kind of stuff. Noctis was really powerful back then, but in new meta he's becoming more of a support now because he can't chain or finish. But you have a lot of good units and bad units in your team. Okay, so regardless of what you draw, you might draw like 5 Freeveres, that kind of stuff. But the reality comes to the fact that you won't be able to use all 5 in a proper team, right? So not one team fits every battle. Okay, you have to depending on what the battle is and how you go about beating the boss and how you complete it. You've got to choose a different team for each occasion. Okay, so for instance, if you had 5 Freeveres, I'm definitely not as lucky as that. I only have 1, but if you have like 5 Freeveres, there's probably a big chance that you won't be able to use all of them. But let's go through building the team anyway. So when you're playing through the story mode, it's all the enemies in there are quite weak. Okay, so they don't do too much damage, and even the bosses, and you can actually blow them away with just like all DPS units. You don't really need healers as such. Only for like achievements and stuff you need healers and green mage and that kind of stuff. But for story you can just blow through the whole thing with like 5 Freeveres, 5 Orlandos, 5 Noctises, that kind of stuff. You can actually just like blow straight through it without any strategy in your team building. But when you come to trials, it's a bit more difficult, especially the long-lasting ones, like for instance the robot trial, and maybe Gilgamesh was is still a problem nowadays as well. It's one of those things, one of those times where you got to choose correctly your team. Okay, so regardless how many 5-star bases you pull, you're not going to dump them all into one team and hope to beat every single stage or trial event that you actually come across. Okay, so for story, you can just dump a whole load of DPS units in there. If you're doing TM farming, you can just do all that basic. Here we go. Not pro tag. This one. Full TM. So you can just choose all your units that you want the TM for. So I've got 2 Ilias here, and then I've got 3 Shines in the middle for their TM. Just solely for their purposes. You don't really need a strong character in there. As long as you choose an ally that has a strong attack, you can just blow through the... Actually, you don't even need to because it's the Earth Shrine. Earth Shrine, you just basically farm the Earth Shrine with any ally. You can put that on a macro, and that will just farm for you. Okay, so for the TM, you don't need to really speak about that. Put whatever TM units you want to put on there. Arena. Okay, so for the arena, it's slightly different to your main team and your story mode team. So story mode team is all DPS units. When you go to arena, you don't want all DPS units actually. You prefer to go for, you'd be better off anyway, you're better off going for like status elements and that kind of stuff, unless the stage forbids, or the weekly bans forbids that. Okay, so if you go into arena here, so this week I think it's like no lightning attacks, so no lightning elemental, yep, and parameter boost. Okay, so buffs. There's no buffs on any of your any moves that your units can use. Okay, so the weekly bans will prohibit you from using some of your moves. But what you want to go for mainly is status element. Okay, so for instance, take for example Amelia. She's got all stop. Okay, she's got an AOE stop attack, which basically stops all the opponents. I've got Noctis here, which also does Blizzard Flask, sorry, which stops all the opponents again. AOE for stop, as well as the Fire Flask, which causes ailments if the Blizzard Flask is prohibited for that week. Okay, you have one unit that can withstand all the attacks, all the elements. So she won't get paralyzed, she won't get petrified, she won't be confused, that kind of stuff. Okay, so you want a unit that is resistant to those type of moves, so she or he can cure your whole party. Okay, so as well as having a resistance to ailments, she has to have a cure all or a Isuna type of dual cast Isuna sort of unit to free up your unit if they do get status elements, if they do get paralyzed or whatever. Okay, so I have Laswell in here. That's a new unit that I dumped in after the enhancements. Maybe pre-enhancements here is actually pretty good as well. But I put Laswell in here because he's got 4 attacks. So usually you put another status element caster in there, or a high DPS. In this case I put a high DPS, which is Laswell, and he can hit 4 times with dual wield. One of his moves which allows him to hit twice with a single wield, so when you put dual wield on him he attacks 4 times, and being a cap of 999, that will exceed the maximum damage you can do in the arena. Okay, so Laswell is definitely a character unit you should put in arena mode. And the last one I just put Freevia because on the charts for some reason she's top on the arena rankings. So I'll put her at the top. Well, I put her in there because she also has the frost attack, which paralyzes the enemies. So she's got a paralyzed status element in there as well. Okay, so that's for the arena. You want to go for just as much status elements as possible. Status element. You want to put as much of that on, and also have one person who can cure that up. Okay. Mainly stop. You want to go for stop because some characters are immune to paralyze, confuse, and that kind of stuff. Okay. Otherwise, if all that is failed, if all that fails and everything of what I've just said is like banned in one of the weeks, then you can actually go for all magic. I think the elemental chain's a bit higher, so if you want to put like 5 X deaths on the team, you can go for that instead. Okay, so if you can't paralyze, you can't petrify, you can always stop unless there's no ice moves. Okay, so if you can't actually stop the enemy, then obviously you change up your team for that week and you go all mages like X-Def instead of this team here. Okay, right, onto the main team. Right, so the main team is for instance fighting trials and stuff. I've got a trials team here actually. So for the trials team I also put the companion setting on there, so whatever I choose as leader could be the ally that I set for the week. So I'll probably switch between Lunera being a high SPR support unit that can buff, heal, and MP battery for the team. I switched to Tidus because one of my friends has Tidus as well, and she needs a Tidus to ally, and I put Aquablade on him so she can chain with her Tidus, which has Brotherhood. Okay, so she needs a water element, so I put Tidus in there. So sometimes I put that as leader, and my most set leader is Freevia, and you see all my ally list is like Freevias as well. So Freevia with Freevia is probably one of the best combinations that I can currently get. So that's why I put that as my ally. But as for team building for the trials version, I put Riku. Okay, so Riku counts as support. Okay, so you want basically a support unit that can break the enemies. Okay, so Riku here is my all breaker because I have her Riku's pouch, which has Chaos Grenade in there, which reduces all the stats of the enemy by I think 30%, something like that, or 40%, 30, 40. So she's my breaker. So when your team needs a breaker basically for harder trials, like Gilgamesh, you need to break something of his. So you break the attack to make him do less damage, or you break the defense, which makes you do more damage, or you break magic if the enemy is a magic caster, or you break the SPR if your team does magic damage. Okay, so the breaker is quite important in any role. So you always have to have a breaker. So people such as Wall, Rain, or Riku if you have a TM. Okay, so those people that can break the enemy's stats is one of the musts that you have in the team. Unless the boss has a break immunity. Okay, so all break immunity, then you wouldn't need a breaker then. Okay, so next in line is a healer. I've got Lunera here, a healer and a buffer. So you want to buff your team. People like Wilhelm do that really well, or Minfilia. I could recommend using Minfilia because she's a free unit that everybody has or had a chance to get. Minfilia is really good for buffing. Lunera is really good for buffing because she sings. Somebody that can raise all your stats is called a buffer. Okay, so you raise the attack, you can raise the magic, you can raise the defense and SPR of your other characters. Okay, so your other companions, they can have their stats lifted up. And that is called a buffer. So you need a buffer in your team, and purely because when you raise your defense and SPR, the damage you take is lower, and if you raise your attack and magic, then your output damage is higher. Okay, so after the buffer, you need a healer, some sort of sustenance. Okay, so you want to have Refia was good at the beginning. I think Tilith has overtaken her now, so people like Tilith, Refia, Istola. Istola is good because she has innate dual cast, so she can cast the magic twice in one turn without having the TM. So you need a healer, somebody that can, after taking damage, somebody on the next turn can revive your units if they die, or cure up if you've taken some damage. Okay, so you need a healer as well. So in the middle of here, I've put down Beach Time Fina. She's just my support healer, reviver, as well as she puts in, she does the water resistance down for Tidus here. Okay, so I have Lunera, which actually heals about 2000 HP because of her SPR per turn, and then I have a spare healer, Beach Time Fina. On this slot, I usually have a support damager. Okay, so this one usually, if it's like a finisher, it could be a finisher, like for instance, like if you have a chain on one side, you can have a finisher which does even more damage on the end of the chain. In this case, I've actually put Tidus actually. Let me switch to my other team. Oh, my other team actually has Tidus as well. This wasn't set up like this before. So I had, oh, where is he? So I had Dark Knight Cecile on here before. So this is the way I did it. The way I do it normally, I have one finisher on there, and then I have the chainer there on the end, 3 of you. Okay, so you have a high damage unit. This is your DPS unit in the team. You'll usually have some sort of unit which is probably 5 stars. Maybe the 5-star ones, they do more damage than the 4-star base ones. But the 5-star going on to 6-star units tend to have a stronger attack than the other units. I might be wrong, like some self-destructing units or whatever. But take for example my Dark Knight Cecile. He's not armed at the moment because I put all my equipment on Tidus. He can go up to 1000 attack, and as a finisher he does a 1 move which basically hurts himself, and he does a lot of damage, and that kind of unit you want in the team. So you want somebody who can deal a lot of damage as a finisher at the end of a chain. Okay, so I've got Freevia on the side here. She was my main DPS for a long while after I drew her. She's a chainer and does a lot of damage, so you want somebody with huge damage on that end that you can stack up on magic or attack on. Okay, so she's a chainer. She builds up a chain with an ally with herself. She'll go up in chains, and then Dark Knight Cecile there will finish the chain off with a ×4 multiplier. Okay, that's how I usually build up the team. And here I've got Refia because of Dark Knight Cecile. So Dark Knight Cecile will kill himself if you don't Curaja in between. But that's something more on the complex side of things. Okay, so Dark Knight Cecile is like probably the only unit that can proper outright kill himself in the same turn. Okay, so let me just summarize again. So in your team for like trials and stuff, you usually have to have like a breaker to break the opponent's stats. You have a buffer which buffs your own stats. You have number 3, your healer. Okay, so Lunera is a healer as well, but number 3, you have a healer as well. So the more healing you can do, the better, because sometimes the boss do a lot of damage to you, and you want to recover to full HP as much as possible anyway. Okay, so the 4th one can be another healer or some sort of tank. Okay, so usually you have like a tank, but in this case, because I got Riku, she kind of like revives herself. But you want some sort of a tank actually instead of Dark Knight Cecile. You want to go for somebody like Wilhelm or Warrior of Light. Warrior of Light's got everybody's kind of got him at the moment because he was a really easy draw. I think he's like 3 stars. Is he 3 stars? He's 3-star base, so it's kind of like a guaranteed unit that everybody has. Once you've ranked up to about, say, rank 60, I think everybody must have had at least 1 wall. Okay, so Warrior of Light can be counted as a tank if you used his whatever shield. Okay, the Light is Bithus, I think it's called. Cecile is a good tank, so somebody who can take in a lot of damage and kind of like mitigate that damage is definitely recommended instead of a finisher here. So the finisher is for like maybe if you have a good team that heals and buffs and does all that other stuff without having a tank in the first place. Okay, so usually instead of Dark Knight Cecile here, you have Cecile himself instead of the Dark Knight version. You have Cecile or a tank of some sort and sort of raise the defense and SPR as much as you can, and he's going to basically be the wall, the fortress of your team. Okay, and the last spot is your DPS. DPS unit can be Tidus for chaining. It could be Friavia, Orlando. If not a 5-star base, then you can go for to go through my list actually. Let's see see what units there are that can be counted as your DPS unit. So close enough, anybody could be a DPS unit like Noctis. Okay, so he's 5-star base again. Okay, so Mercedes can be a DPS unit. She doesn't chain very well, but she does do a lot of damage, and you can actually use that as your if you have to resort to that, then you just go for doing as much damage with that unit as possible per turn. Laswell, he's kind of like meh for a protagonist. He's still kind of a baby at the moment compared to the other units in the meta. DPS unit, you can go for a magic caster. You can actually use a magic caster instead of a physical attack. But I haven't gone with any magical attack users because I think they're slightly weaker than the physical damage side. Agris later on will become kind of like an Orlando. Okay, I wouldn't even say it's a mini Orlando. Her move is kind of exactly the same as Orlando's attack anyway. So Agris later on, when she does get a 6-star upgrade and enhancements. Let's see what else can be used as a main DPS. Okay, Kefka can be used as a main DPS as a magic user. Maxwell can go quite high in the attack. With TMs, that is, he can be used as a DPS. So basically anybody that you can, if you feel confident will do a lot of damage to the enemy, can be put in your DPS slot. And that's basically it, guys. So you have your arena team, which is for status elements and status element cure, and then you have your story mode team, which basically is full DPS, full magic. Do whatever you want to that. A full magic team is usually the best right at the beginning because magic did a lot more damage than physical. And then your next one was the TM squad. So the TM one, it's always varies depending on which unit you want to raise the percentage on for the TM. And the last one is trials or your main team. The main team is always consists of the same usual stuff. It's buffing, debuffing, tank, healer, and DPS. Those are the 5 units. And then your ally can be an ally of your choice. You can choose DPS again, like I did. So that's basically it for team building, guys. You just gotta strategize your team well enough so you can face all the circumstances that you might have to face with that boss. Okay, so if the boss can't be broken, then you can take out the breaker. You can put it in with somebody else that can tank, or somebody else who buffs up the team, or heals, or some more physical damage. You can basically just have to think about what you have to, what you're fighting against, and how you're going to overcome them, basically. Alright guys, so that is team building, and I can't specifically say that there's one team for everything. You're going to have to try and think for yourself and try to emphasize a bit, sorry, not emphasize, you have to try and like think about it a bit and decide for yourself which teams you want to put in. Alright, thanks for watching guys. That's going to be, I hope that was helpful for you anyway. Hope that was helped you think about what teams you're going to use against different trials. But thanks for watching anyway guys. I'll see you in the next episode. Goodbye.